Thank you. I have something like 35 years of experience teaching at Harvard University. And one of the courses that I've taught for many years at Harvard College is called Dilemmas of Excellence, getting everybody really high up, and equity in K-12 schools. But what I've put together for you today, I'm going to kick things off and then turn things to Alice. And I think we both really would appreciate questions from you. I pulled together some statistics because I think there are a lot of myths about what does it take to get into a good college? What is a good college? How do I know? And I'd like to share that with you. And basically, this is based on years and years and years of talking with students and what they want and what they're interested in. So
I'm a lifelong educator, just like Kay. I've had the privilege of being a university professor for school administrators at a number of universities. I have been a leader of large school systems in California and served a number of governors in California on policy boards. I am also a mother and grandmother, and I know what it's like waiting for those letters of acceptance. In fact, I don't think I've ever shared this with Kay, but our son thought he was being accepted at Harvard. And the letter came and it wasn't thick. The envelope was rather thin. And when he opened it, he did not get accepted to Harvard. He locked himself up in his room and we didn't see him for 3 days. But he went on to UCLA and Chicago, University of Chicago. And what I'm here to say is he survived and he's successful. So to all of you young ladies and gentlemen who are waiting for those acceptance letters, you will survive and you will succeed. And Dr. Merseth, turning it back to you.
well, she does remind me, I have 2 children, one of whom did go to Harvard and one who applied and did not. And instead, she went to what's called Connecticut College. She spent 2 years at Connecticut College, basically exhausted everything she thought they had that she was interested in, and transferred to George Washington University. And among the family, there are 5 Harvard degrees in our family. She's the only one that was a Phi Beta Kappa. So it doesn't matter, folks. It really doesn't matter. So while I know for you right now it's so important, there are tremendous opportunities in lots of different schools, and we're here basically to try to paint the landscape. So the power of a UWC education. I think one of the things that impresses me when I come to visit you and to see all the activities that you're involved in, sometimes I can feel that it must feel overwhelming. There's so many things you can do. The world is your so-called oyster in front of you. You could be an academic at Oxford University. You could be a research scientist at another place. You could be a sheet metal worker, which is what that picture is of that fellow. Or you could be a plumber. Or you could work with young children. All of these things are available. And what you need to do as a young person is to try different things and say, how did that make me feel? Did I like it? Did it cause me to think about it after I got home? Or did you try something and you absolutely hated it? Then that tells you something about what you might be interested in. So in higher education, as you think about higher education, first of all, let me say, higher education, going to college or going to university, is not for everyone. There's a tremendous sort of stampede of, oh, let's get everybody into college. But in fact, it may not be a good choice for you. And perhaps that's not raised in this particular culture or in this environment, but I want you to think, just because everyone else is trying to go to college doesn't mean that it's the right fit for you. And I'm sure you've heard these words about fit. But when I think about things to consider, if you are going to go, hoping to go to college, some further education. One is size. There are colleges, and I'm going to speak primarily about the United States. I apologize, I do not know the systems in England or other countries. But in the United States, there are colleges that range in size from 200 students, basically the number you have here each year, to 20,000, 40,000. So size, do you like a lot of hubbub and a lot of things going on, or do you want something that's a little bit more intimate? Size is one thing to consider. Co-ed or single sex? Do you want to go to a college or a university that has only women? There are plenty of excellent colleges in the United States that still only enroll women, or other colleges that only enroll men. Or are you into co-ed? You kind of like to have experiences from multiple points of view. Location, of course, is huge. Do you like the warmth? You want to go to the south where it's warm. You want to come to Boston, where right now we're having an incredible snowstorm. Believe it or not, they expect 2 feet of snow today in the city of Boston. Do you like that? Do you want to go to California, where Ann can tell you that basically you can surf all year round or play tennis all year round? So geography is something to take into account. What makes you feel good? Curriculum. Are you thinking about a STEM career? Are you thinking about a liberal arts education? It's a little early when you first go to college or university to say, well, I'm going to be X, and sort of not do anything else because I'm so devoted to doing X. And then after 4 years, you may look around and say, I'm not so interested in X anymore, and I just devoted 4 years of my life to do X. And so what's the curriculum like? Is it a curriculum that's known, for example, at Brown University as being very open, very wide open, and you can almost make up the courses that you want to study? Or is it quite rigid? Is it a sense of classes, for example, at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology? You can major in English at MIT, but you also will be surrounded by a lot of folks who are really interested in the STEM subjects. So thinking about the curriculum itself is really important. Is it an experiential college or university where they take you on field trips, put you out in the field, put you in an internship? Or is it strictly in the classroom kinds of learning? All of this can be figured out by looking on their websites and reading carefully and talking to people who've applied there or who have attended. But there are vast, vast differences. Another one is the student life. What's it like to be a student in a big multi-school university? A school, for example, at Harvard. There's Harvard College, which has only about 1,600 students, freshman through senior, 400 a class, or 1,600 a class, 6,400. Or do you want to go to a big place like the University UCLA, where your son went? How many students? A lot. How many? 40,000 students. So what's student life there? Is it, for example, if you go to a school like Columbia in New York City, is it going to be a school where people commute to the school? They live at home, or they live on Long Island, or they live out in other parts of New York where they don't live in dorms. They come in to attend their classes. Or is it a school like Dartmouth, which is up in northern New Hampshire, where there's nothing else nearby? You live on the Dartmouth campus. It's not unlike where we are right here. Very much an outdoor kind of a situation. Student life, extracurricular activities. Are you interested in art, in music, in athletics? Are you a great rugby player? Are you a great soccer player? What do people do for extracurricular activities? Ballet, music. It strikes me, living in the community that I do, there's something to attend every night, whether it's a performance, in a theatrical performance, whether it's music, whether it's a basketball game, whether it's football. All of these things make up the extracurricular activities. Expense. Now, expense is something I'm going to talk a little bit more about as we go along, because I'm sure everyone here is saying, oh my God, to go to a fancy college in the United States is going to cost $90,000 a year. Well, that's true, but, big but, 55% of the students at Harvard are on financial aid, and their average tuition that they pay is more like $40,000. But the advertised price for a year of study, plus living in the dorm, plus books, plus food, is $90,000. But nearly every education institution that I'm familiar with discounts their tuition by offering financial aid. So don't be totally put off by that. And then selectivity. You know, you read about how many thousands of students, Harvard had 50,000 students apply this year to enter this coming fall. Their acceptance rate was somewhere around 3.5%. Other schools, and I'll show you some of this on my slides, are equally selective. But let me ask you this. Is there any reason that you should not be in that 3.5%? Don't, you will not, I can tell you 100%, you will not be admitted if you don't apply. So don't sort of hold yourselves back. You'd be surprised that you may get admitted when you thought you couldn't. And therefore, I really want to urge all of you to think of the broad sort of community to which you can apply. And apply. No harm. We have a famous wife of a president named Eleanor Roosevelt, and she once said, if you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're right. So if you already predetermined that I can't get in there, then you're right, because you didn't apply. All right, so the percentage of international students, I'm not sure you can see this, but this just shows you some different schools. Some schools have large international student bodies, others have small student bodies. Mount Holyoke, Suffolk University, the new school, Bryn Mawr College, Carnegie Mellon, very good engineering school. And we'll make these slides available to you so you can see the small print later. But these were just some schools when I Googled and I said, who has the greatest number of international students? And this is what came up. But here's some details. And this is hot off the press. Just last week, we admitted our students for the fall. Harvard accepted 3.59% of more than 50,000 applicants this year, with 15.8% were from abroad. So 15 out of 100 students at Harvard are not US citizens. Yale, you've heard of, admitted 3.7% of over 57,000. And while UCLA admitted about 16% of out-of-state applicants. Bates College, a very small, very good liberal arts, by that I mean you can study all sorts of things, just the college, no graduate schools, just the college. Bates College accepted 13%. And once again, I say to you, why wouldn't you be in that 13%? Don't prejudge. You must apply in order to get in. Expense. Yale, Harvard, Boston College, Boston University, MIT, Brandeis, Amherst, Princeton, Stanford, they all advertise a cost of $90,000. But these costs are often reduced by scholarships and by loans. And so once again, don't prejudge and say, well, my parents couldn't afford it, or I couldn't afford it. Some state-supported schools like UCLA, like the University of Southern California, University of Washington, University of Virginia. Those costs are closer to $50,000, and they continue to be discounted. So sticker shock, yes, but realize that there's a lot of financial aid and other kinds of loans to which you can apply and receive. This is just a chart of financial aid. Most students in higher education receive some level of financial aid. It's the exception that they don't. And so 55% of the Harvard students receive financial aid. If your parents make less than $85,000 a year, you have a complete free ride. There's no tuition. There's no cost to the dorm. There's no cost for the books. In fact, there is money given to you to travel, to be able to go home at a certain time. Yale offers financial aid to foreign students based on the same basis as the US students. So there's not a discrimination that you're not in it. About 1/3 of international students receive financial aid. So that's a basic landscape of higher education in the United States. And now I will turn it over to my wonderful colleague, Alice. Thank you.
So my life is a little different than Kay's. I come from the high school perspective. And one of the things we've seen after COVID is how difficult it is to get into a university. That is why you've heard Kay say, pitch wide. It may cost you a little bit of money to put the applications in, but pitch wide. You never know what you have that will be very special. We had a friend whose son got into Harvard from normal high school in California, and the GPA was not as high as one would expect. The SAT scores were fine, but not extremely high. You know what we discovered? He played the tuba. The marching band needed a tuba player, and that's who they chose. As you've heard today, what we're saying to you, go ahead and apply, but make sure that it's something you want to do. Don't waste your 4 years. Don't waste the funding or even the efforts for scholarship, only to discover that isn't where you want to be. So hopefully you will keep that in mind, knowing that there are percentage-wise, even in the United States, more students than the history of the nation applying for college and university acceptance. You know that that road isn't going to be easy, but that's not a road that's going to be denied. One of the things that the board really wants to know is how well you look at other nations. Have you looked at Spain? Have you looked at the UK? Have you looked at Germany? It's that willingness to do your undergraduate work in a different setting than what you feel has got to be the place, that top place, whatever that top university is for you. Here's what we're hearing in California, is if you do your undergraduate work at a university that is good and you are successful, chances of you making the top tier universities for graduate work is even better. How many of you here already know what career path you want to take? Let's ask you that. How many want to be doctors? Any doctors in the room? No, that's surprising. How many of you want to be attorneys? None. All right. One? All right. How many of you are looking for IT sector? 1, 2, 3. All right. Which of the universities you've looked at has the best future for technology? What would you say? MIT. Yeah. Our grandson just did a tour of MIT and was extremely impressed. High competition, but, we've said, go ahead and try. Happens, happens. If it doesn't, there'll be one. And I think that's what we're saying. How many of you are under pressure from your parents? Nobody here? That's amazing. Oh, just 3 of you. Oh my goodness, how blessed the family we have here. Adam, this is great. They're all getting to choose what they want. Now we're ready for your questions of us. And Satanik, you have the mic. Who has questions? Yes.
Hello, I'm Juan. I'm from Venezuela and I'm a second year. I already know where I'm going for college, but something that I'm really scared of is, how much as an international student I can succeed in college, because of course I'm not a US citizen. I'm coming as a foreign, like a virus into their system. And I'm really scared that I'm just gonna do my 4 years and then I'll need to see what to do because I'm not part of their system. I'm just a little outsider that just came for a few years and then they want me to leave.
Wrong place. You're not a virus. If anything, you're a shining star. So if you are accepted to any university, you are definitely wanted by them. This is not an era where you have this whole thing of, oh, they accepted me because of my family or because of legacy. None of that holds up anymore. So you are a gift to that university. Notice here on this campus, what you put in is what you get out. If you're coming to class thinking, when will this be over? I want to get out and party with friends. That's what you're going to get out. What you decide you want to do there. Now, I will also say, unfortunate for you, but certainly fortunate for me who's old, graduate school is more or less something you've got to have in your mind. You're not going to get away with just doing a 4-year degree. So imagine this as the same step that you came here to get into an excellent university and get a wonderful education. What we're grateful for, it's well-rounded, obviously. If I were to ask the question I just asked you, how many of you want to be physicians and how many of you want to be lawyers in a high school in California, over 50% of the hands would have been up. So what you've got is a diverse talent you're bringing to us. Use that talent. What is your major?
I would like to major in mathematics and computer science.
You're in. So enjoy it. Then decide what you want for the next level. But remember, this is only your first 4 years. And hopefully, how many of you already know that you plan to go to graduate school? Okay, that's just about everybody in this room. Then use those 4 years to plan for the next 2 or 4, whichever you decide you want to do afterwards. All right, what other questions?